Soft jazz, a record player's gentle hiss, the distant chime of a city clock striking midnight. Let's start where Elena believed her new life began. Not just a penthouse, but a sanctuary suspended 60 floors above Chicago. Glass walls showed the city as a carpet of diamonds laid over black velvet. The air smelled of lemon wood polish, old books, and the faint, expensive spice of Marco's cologne. This wasn't just wealth. This was a curated universe. Every painting was an original. Every rug told a story. Marco Santoro didn't just buy things, he collected atmospheres. He was the kind of man who could quote Dante in Italian, identify a 16th century violin by its varnish, and still knew how to fix a leaking sink without calling a plumber. It was that contradiction that first disarmed her. Power that served. Strength that cared for small things. The first night I spent here, I didn't sleep. I just walked from room to room in the dark, trailing my fingers over the frames of paintings, the spines of first editions. It was so quiet, the kind of quiet that doesn't exist when you're running. For 2 years, my quiet had been the white noise hum of fear. This was the silence of arrival. He remembered how I took my coffee. Not just coffee. He remembered I liked the Ethiopian beans from that specific roaster on Wabash ground course in the French press, 2 sugars, no cream. He'd have it waiting before I even knew I wanted it. After 6 months, he still held elevator doors. Still warmed my car on winter mornings before I woke. Still kissed my forehead when he thought I was asleep, his lips barely touching my skin. A whisper of a touch that felt more like a vow than a kiss. But to understand the sheer vertigo of that safety, you have to understand the storm she'd escaped. Elena wasn't just a woman with a past. She was a ghost actively haunting her own life. 2 years, 4 months, and 16 days off-grid. The incident at Sterling and Price wasn't a mistake or a misfortune. It was a massacre dressed in a suit. She was a junior forensic accountant, a numbers whiz plucked from Columbia, tasked with tracing the flow of capital through shell companies for a major client audit. The sterile hum of an open-plan office after hours. Computer fans, the distant ping of an elevator. Elena's fingers tapping rapidly on a keyboard. The click-clack is rhythmic, urgent. The numbers were too clean. Money flowing from Geneva to Cyprus to the Caymans, but the trail kept hitting a wall. A charity. The New Dawn Children's Foundation. I dug past the tax filings into the board members. One name kept appearing. A name that shouldn't have been there. Victor Costello. A door opening down the hall. Heavy footsteps. Not the janitor's soft-soled shuffle. Victor Costello. Senior partner. The man who'd hired her. She'd printed the final link. A wire transfer from the charity to a private account in Costello's wife's maiden name. She was putting it in her bag when the door to the accounting bullpen opened. Footsteps stop. The hum of the office seems to grow louder. Working late. Elena? Dedication is so rare these days. Just finishing up the Kessler audit, sir. The Kessler audit. Of course. And what did you find? The slow, deliberate click of a door locking. He knew. She saw it in his eyes. The pleasant mask dissolved, leaving something cold and reptilian. He pulled a key from his pocket and locked the main door from the inside. My phone was on my desk. 10 feet away. It might as well have been on the moon. 2 more sets of footsteps enter from a side corridor. Heavy, confident. 2 men followed him in. They weren't from the firm. They wore cheap suits that bulged in wrong places. They had the flat, empty eyes of men for whom violence was a transaction. You should have stuck to the numbers I gave you. The ones on the surface. My associates here need to collect all your work. Every file. Every flash drive. And the girl is a liability. The foundation's work is too important. Clean it up. A silencer being screwed onto a pistol. A soft, metallic HH click that froze the blood in Elena's veins. The cleanup had already begun. In the glass-walled conference room next door, she saw 3 of her colleagues. Paul, from auditing, Mira, from compliance, young Ben, an intern. Look up as the 2 men with Costello entered their space. They didn't look scared at first. Confused. Ben even smiled, starting to stand. 3 quick, muffled fut-fut phut sounds. Not loud, like books being dropped on a carpet. Then the sound of a body slumping against glass. Myra's head jerked back. A red rose bloomed on the conference room glass behind her. She slid down, leaving a streak. Paul tried to run. He got 2 steps. Ben just sat there, a look of profound surprise on his face, before he toppled sideways off his chair. Gasping breath, Elena's trying to be silent. The scuff of her shoe as she backed away. Costello watched, his face reflecting in the window, utterly impassive. A man reviewing a spreadsheet. Elena's survival instinct, dormant beneath years of academic pursuit, screamed awake. The fire escape. The maintenance door behind the copy room. She moved, not thinking, just flowing backward into the shadowy rows of cubicles as the 2 executioners turned from the conference room. Their job half done. Her heart pounding, a bass drum in her ears. The rustle of her clothes against a cubicle wall. A desk phone suddenly blares. A shrill, shocking ring in the silence. She's in here. A shot. A computer monitor exploding. Glass spraying. She ran. Not to the elevators they'd be waiting. To the stairwell. The heavy door groaned as she hit it with her shoulder, bursting into the concrete and steel echo chamber. Stairwell, heavy door slams. Her footsteps clattering down, echoing wildly. Distant shouts above. Another door slamming. They were following. 32 flights. My lungs were fire. My legs were jelly. I could hear them above, their footsteps heavier, closer. I hit the parking garage level, slammed through another door into the damp, cold dark. I didn't go to my car. They'd have that. I ran. Into the alley. Into the city. I just ran until the taste of blood was in my mouth and the screams were only in my head. The frantic sounds fade, swallowed by the returning soft jazz of the penthouse. A deep, shaky breath from Elena. That was the ghost Marco Santoro met. A woman who jumped at sudden noises, who sat with her back to the wall in restaurants, who paid for everything in cash from a dwindling stash she kept sewn into the lining of different coats. A woman whose only possession of value was the truth she carried. A truth that had gotten 3 people killed and was a death sentence for her. Jazz music swells slightly, then transitions to the bustling, refined chaos of a museum gala. The murmur of a wealthy crowd, the clink of champagne flutes, the distant strains of a string quartet. Their meeting was so perfect it felt scripted. The Chicago Institute of Art's annual Winter Gala, a benefit for the restoration of the Impressionist wing. She was Alessandra, a temp from the premier staffing agency, wearing a black uniform a size too big, holding a silver tray of blinis with caviar that cost more than her weekly rent had been. She was furniture, invisible, pair of hands. It was safe. Marco, VO, smooth, cultured, cutting through the noise. You're standing in the perfect sight line. She turned. He wasn't looking at her tray. He was looking past her, at the painting on the wall behind her. A large, dark canvas. Between you and the Caravaggio. The denial of Saint Peter. See how the soldier's hand on Peter's shoulder is almost a caress? The violence is in the betrayal, not the grip. Most people miss that. They look at the maid pointing at Peter's face. But Caravaggio understood. The deepest cuts come from the hands that once held you. I suppose so. Her voice was a rasp. She hadn't used it in hours. He finally looked at her. Not through her. His eyes were the color of dark honey, lit with an intelligence that was immediately disconcerting. You suppose? You don't sound convinced. What do you see? Elena, VO, against her better judgment, I see a man trying to hide in the shadows. But the light finds him anyway. It always does. Marco Santoro smiled. It wasn't the practiced smile he'd been giving donors all night. It was genuine, surprised. An art critic in a server's uniform. How refreshing. And what do you make of our purported Titian over there? The Venus with a lute player. They're asking 40 million. He gestures. She follows his gaze to a painting surrounded by admirers. It's beautiful. The brushwork on the drapery is exquisite. But the lute player's little finger. Titian had a a fluidity, a slight curl. This one is stiff, almost resentful. It's a copy, a very, very good one. But the forger hated the musician. Or maybe just hated playing second fiddle to a goddess. Marco threw his head back and laughed. A rich, warm sound that turned heads. The CEO of Midwest Continental Bank, who'd been vying for his attention, looked put out. Magnificent. You've just saved me $40 million and a colossal embarrassment. What's your name? Alessandra. I'm Marco. Are you an artist, Alessandra? I was, once, a restorer. And now you ferry fish eggs to Philistines. A tragic downgrade. Have dinner with me. I'm working. Not anymore. Consider yourself hired. I need a personal art consultant with a good eye and the courage to call a fake. Starting salary is triple whatever Premiere is paying you, and you get to keep your opinions. Deal? The crowd fades into the background. All she can hear is her own heartbeat. This was a lifeline, a way out of the temp grind into something stable indoors. But it was also exposure, connection. Why? Because the world is full of beautiful forgeries. Alessandra. I'd like one real thing in my collection. The deep, resonant silence of a penthouse at 2:17 a.m. The city's hum is a distant, muted thing. A soft, rhythmic tapping, not frantic, but methodical, emanates from down the hall. It's the sound of a single key on a keyboard being pressed, released, pressed again. A metronome of insomnia. The first crack didn't shatter the illusion. It was a hairline fracture, so fine you could only see it if you were looking from a specific angle in a specific lonely light. The light of 2:17 a.m. Elena couldn't sleep. The dream had come again, the sound of the silencer, the fut, the slow slide down the glass. She got up for water, her bare feet silent on the heated oak floors. The study door was ajar, a blade of cool blue light cutting across the warm darkness of the hallway. He was in there. Not working on spreadsheets or contracts. Not reading. He was motionless. His profile carved in the glow of his monitor. Watching. First, I thought it was a movie. Some gritty, black and white foreign film. The angles were strange, intimate yet detached. A couple at a corner table at Spiaggia, leaning close, laughing. Then the camera cut, a wider shot from across the restaurant through the window. Another cut, a blurrier, grainier shot from what looked like a light post across the street. It was us. That was our dinner last Tuesday. My silver dress. His hand covering mine on the tablecloth. On the recording, faint, tinny laughter. Marco's recorded voice saying, "The tiramisu here is a crime." Elena's recorded laugh. She watched herself on the screen, a character in a surveillance tape. The footage jumped. The Goodman Theater. Them walking arm in arm, her head leaning on his shoulder. Again, multiple angles. One from the marquee. One from a parked car down the block. Lincoln Park on a Sunday afternoon. A long lens shot of them by the pond, her throwing bread to ducks. Him smiling a smile she rarely saw in daylight. Uncomplicated, easy. It wasn't his phone footage. It wasn't a sweet, private collection of memories. It was a security details report, a dossier of movement, time-stamped, geotagged. It was protection, he would say, but it felt like cataloging. A floorboard creaks under her weight. Marco's head turned slowly, not startled. He'd known she was there. He always knew. Marco, VO, his voice low, textured with fatigue, couldn't sleep? What is all this? He clicks the mouse. The footage freezes on a close-up of her face, caught mid-laugh in the park, slightly pixelated. Is the world, Kara? Is not a kind place. I have interests. Interests create rivals. Rivals become enemies. You are the single point of failure in my entire operation. My only vulnerability. I need to know the perimeter is secure. I need to know you are secure. Always. He said it with such weary conviction. Not as an excuse, but as a grim fact of life like gravity. He swiveled his chair, the blue light painting the hollows under his eyes a deep violet. He looked exhausted, not tired from one late night, but soul-tired. The kind of tired that comes from a lifetime of looking over your shoulder. So you have me followed? everywhere. I have us followed, monitored. It's a bubble. Inside we live. Outside, my men ensure nothing pops it. Is it a violation? Perhaps. But it's the price of this. Of us. Of you being able to walk through that park without looking into every shadow. Do you think I enjoy it? Knowing that my love requires a security detail? He stands, the chair rolling back. His footsteps are quiet as he approaches her in the doorway. He cups her face, his thumbs stroking her cheeks. His hands are warm. Marco VO whispering, I look at these feeds and I don't see a surveillance target. I see the only time I feel remotely human. When I'm with you in these frames, I'm not Marco Santoro, I'm just a man. And I will burn cities to the ground to keep that man alive. Is that possession? Or is that the only kind of love a man like me knows how to give? He kissed her then. It tasted of expensive scotch and profound loneliness. And she let herself believe him. Because the alternative, that the sanctuary was a gilded cage, the protector a warden, was a truth she couldn't afford. Not yet. She chose to see the fatigue as devotion, the surveillance as a morbid form of care. The crack was sealed, for now with a kiss. The ambience shifts. The quiet of night is replaced by the lively, clattering symphony of a dinner party in full swing. The penthouse is now full of light, chatter, the melodic clink of crystal. A jazz trio plays something upbeat in the corner. The second crack appeared not in shadow, but in the brightest light. A dinner party for 30. Chicago's acceptable elite, the gallery owner with ties to Milan, the architect who designed museums in Dubai, the philanthropist whose foundation was a marvel of opaque accounting. Elena wore emerald green, a dress Marco had brought home from Rome. She was playing her part, the cultured, slightly mysterious consultant, the perfect complement to his formidable presence. She was pouring wine for the architect's wife when she saw him. Luca. The crowd's noise dips momentarily as we focus. Luca's voice. A low rumble barely audible under the party's din. Luca was not like the other guests. He was a monument of muscle in a suit that seemed to strain at its seams. His face was a topographic map of old violence. A broken nose, a scar through an eyebrow, eyes that scanned the room not for conversation but for threats. He was Marco's shadow, his consigliere in all but ancient title. He moved to Marco's side, leaned in, and his lips barely moved. The party noise seems to mute, the words hanging in the air. A faint, echoing memory of a man's voice, softer, kinder, speaking the same strange, melodic language. A child's laughter. A kitchen, the smell of garlic and oregano. A man's voice, Elena's father, warm and playful, speaking the same dialect. Asterisk, ia kusai. Mi beta, komu si disamela? Asterisk, and so, my beautiful one, how do you say, the apple? Elena VO in present, internal my father's voice. He called it the mountain tongue, the language of his mother's village near Monte San Fratello. He worked for the Justice Department translating wiretaps. He said it was a language of secrets, of walls and winding streets. He taught me words as a game. Mela for apple, casa for house, periculu for danger. Luca's words were not simple vocabulary. They were a complex, archaic code. Luca's phrase translated in Elena's mind, VO asterisk. The ship in port is sick. The winds of change can blow. Leave the package in the water. Asterisk. Marco VO, replying in the same dialect. His tone flat asterisk. U paketu sapi trapu. Iventu ponu pertari u so oduri. Polizia casa prima chiovi. Asterisk. Translation in Elena's mind, VO asterisk. The package knows too much. The wind can carry its scent. Clean house before it rains. Asterisk. The party noise crashes back in. A woman's shriek of laughter. The clatter of a dropped fork. Clean house. The same term Costello had used before the shots rang out. A cold finger traced a line down Elena's spine. Marco's face showed nothing. He gave Luca a barely perceptible nod. Luca melted back into the crowd. Marco turned, caught Elena's eye across the room, and raised his glass to her with a smile that didn't touch his eyes. The crack wasn't in what she heard. It was in the seamless, chilling shift between the man toasting her and the man ordering a house cleaning in a dead language. Which one was the performance? I stood there, holding a bottle of Brunello, smiling like an idiot. Inside, I was translating a death sentence. Was I the package? Was the house this penthouse? My mind raced. A sick ship in port. Compromised operation. Leave it or clean it. My father's lessons were no longer a game. They were a decoder ring to a world I was sleeping beside. The party sounds fade, replaced by the tense, focused silence of the next afternoon. The study. Sunlight streams in, highlighting dust motes dancing in the air. Elena is alone. The party's echo is gone, replaced by a gnawing suspicion. The third crack was the one you could hold in your hand. It came the next day, in the brutal honesty of afternoon light. Marco was at a meeting. Luca was with him. The penthouse was hers. The silence was accusing. She told herself she was looking for a pen, a specific Mont Blanc he'd let her borrow. He kept spare stationery in the left drawer of his desk. That's all this was. The solid thunk of the heavy teak drawer opening. The rustle of fine stationery, envelopes. Her fingers brush something that isn't paper. Stiff, laminated. Beneath a stack of bond paper and corporate bylaws for a shell company called Ethelred Holdings. Her fingers found a photograph. Not a digital print. An old school, glossy 4x6, the edges slightly curled. It was me, but not me. My hair was longer, darker, the color of espresso. I dyed it blonde the week after I fled New York. I was wearing my old coat, the tan one with the missing button I'd never gotten around to sewing. I was coming out of my old apartment building on West 83rd Street. I had a grocery bag in one hand, keys in the other. I was looking right at the camera, but I didn't see it. I just looked tired, normal. Her breath hitches. She turns the photo over. The back is not blank. Neat, block letters, written in blue ink. Written on the back, subject, Alessandra Vieri. Identity confirmed. Residential pattern established. Asset viable for acquisition. Proceed to phase 2. And below that, a date, October 12th. Over a year ago. For months before the art gala. Before he'd ever noticed her standing in front of a Caravaggio. The blood roars in her ears. A deafening tidal wave drowning out all other sound. The photograph trembles in her hand. Acquisition. Not hiring. Not meeting. Acquisition. Phase 2. What was phase 1? Finding me? Phase 2. Was the gala? The job offer? The dinners? The forehead kisses? All of it? A phase? The coffee he remembered, the car he warmed. Was that in the playbook? Was I a hostile takeover of a human being? A key turns in the penthouse's main door. A distant, metallic click-shunk. Footsteps in the foyer. Firm, measured, familiar. The floor seemed to tilt. The beautiful, curated room swam before her eyes. The proof was in her hand, cold and slick. The footsteps came down the hall, paused outside the study door. Time stretched, thin and brittle. The door handle turns. The door swings open silently. His voice was calm, quiet. It held no surprise, no anger. It was the voice of a man who had expected, perhaps even planned, for this moment. He stood in the doorway, not filling it, but somehow making the room feel smaller. His eyes went from her face, pale and stricken, to the photograph in her hand. A faint, almost imperceptible sigh escaped him. A leaf falling in a forest. Find what you were looking for. Elena? He didn't call her Alessandra. Not the fake name she'd given, the name on the photo. He used her real name. The one from before the running started. The one only the ghosts and the government knew. Or should I call you Alessandra? Though that's not quite right either, is it? Your father called you Ellie. The study is utterly silent, save for the faint, high-pitched ringing in Elena's own ears. The photograph is a live wire in her hand, burning the skin of her fingertips. Marco doesn't move from the doorway. He simply watches her. His expression a complex map of exhaustion, resignation, and something else. Something that looks perilously close to relief. You think I found you by accident? A ghost with no past, no digital footprint, paying for ramen noodles with cash in a city of 10 million? The odds would be astronomical. No, Elena. I found you because I have an entire division of men whose only job is to find people who don't want to be found. People who owe my family money. People who have seen things they shouldn't. People like you. My father. Antonio Vieri. The ghost accountant. The best forensic mind the organized crime task force ever contracted. He didn't just follow money. He understood its soul. Its fears. Its vanity. He could look at a transaction between a bakery in Palermo and a toy store in Cleveland and tell you not only which mafia captain was laundering money, but which mistress he was buying the diamonds for. My father respected him, feared him, hated him. A flashback begins not with a bang, but with the gentle, rhythmic clicking of an old-fashioned mechanical calculator. It's a comforting, paternal sound. Elena Vio. Flashback: he had an old adding machine in his study. He said the sound helped him think. Click, 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 click. Like crickets. I fall asleep to it. Antonio Vieri was a quiet man. He loved Baroque music, bad puns, and his daughter, Ellie. He kept his work in a locked leather satchel. He never brought it to the dinner table. But sometimes, very late, Elena would hear him on the phone, his voice low and urgent, speaking in those same mountain dialects. He was building a case. Not just a RICO charge. A masterpiece. He was tracing a single dollar from a heroin deal in Naples, through a chain of shell companies, luxury car dealerships, and finally into the campaign fund of a state senator here in Illinois. And that senator was on my father's payroll. That dollar was a thread. Your father was pulling it, and the whole tapestry was beginning to unravel. The comforting clicks of the calculator morph, becoming faster, more frantic. They mix with the sound of rustling papers, a man's stressed breathing. The night it happened, my father was at our estate on Long Island Sound. He was agitated, pacing. He'd gotten a call, a warning. He knew the net was closing. He had a safe, not in the wall, in the boathouse, under the floorboards, contained the real ledgers, the unlaundered truth. He decided to move them. How do you know this? Because I was there. I was 17. He told me to wait in the main house. But I followed him. I hid in the shadows of the dock, watching. He was on the phone arguing. His voice was scared, a tone I'd never heard before. Then he said a name. Vieri. He said, Antonio, per l'amor di Dio, siamo stati amici una volta. C'è un altro modo. Antonio, for the love of God, we were friends once. There is another way. Over Marco's narration, the faint, tinny sound of a man's voice pleading through a phone receiver. The lapping of dark water against wooden pylons. Crickets. There was a long silence. My father listened. Then his shoulders slumped. All the fight went out of him. He said, Allora lo farai. Buonanotte, vecchio amico. So you will do it. Good night, old friend. He hung up. He stood there for a full minute, looking out at the black water. Then he turned to go back to the house. A single, sharp crack. Not a loud gunshot, but a precise, contained pop. The sound of a body hitting the wooden dock with a heavy, wet thud. A soft splash as something, the phone, tumbles into the water. He didn't even cry out. He just folded. The shooter was in the trees. Professional. One shot. I didn't move. Couldn't breathe. I just watched my father's blood, black in the moonlight, seep between the deck boards and drip into the sound. The last person he spoke to was your father. The flashback sound cuts off sharply. Back to the tense silence of the study. Elena Vio, voice trembling with a fury that cuts through her fear. You think my father set him up? You think he lured him there? My father was the most moral man I've ever known. He wouldn't. Marco Vio, cutting her off, his voice suddenly sharp. I don't think he set him up. I know he did. The phone records proved it. The last call. The location data. The FBI treated it as a tragic coincidence. A prosecutor talking to a target on the night he's killed. But in my family, that's a death sentence. For him, and for his bloodline, the pieces didn't just crash together. They exploded, sending shrapnel through every memory she had. The Santoro family takedown 5 years ago. The headlines, financial empire crumbles. Her father's car accident 6 months later. The police said it was black ice. She'd always wondered why he was on that remote road at midnight. She'd buried her suspicions with him. You've thought I was part of it this whole time. You thought I was some sleeper agent. My father's revenge from beyond the grave. It was the only thing that made sense. Why else would Antonio Vieri's daughter surface in my city? Take a job that put her near me. It was too elegant. Too perfect. My uncle Salvatore, he took over after my father, he was certain. The apple doesn't fall far, he said. She's the final piece of her father's plan. Finish it. Marco takes a single step into the room. He doesn't come closer, just leans against the doorframe, as if all the strength has left him. The job was simple. Find you, acquire you, get close, recover any files, any data your father might have passed to you, and then eliminate the loose end. Permanently. That was phase 3. It's been on the books for a year. Then why am I still breathing? Why the penthouse? Why the coffee? Her voice breaks on the word. A long, profound silence stretches. It's not empty. It's filled with the ghost of every moment they've shared. Every laugh. Every touch. Every silent breakfast. Marco looks down at his hands, as if seeing them for the first time. When he finally speaks, his voice is stripped bare. Raw. Because I am a profoundly stupid man. He said it not with self-pity, but with the flat acceptance of a scientific fact. Phase 1 was surveillance. We had you in that awful studio on Archer Avenue. For 3 weeks I watched the feeds. You lived like a monk. You read library books. You cooked one-pot meals. You cried in the shower so no one would hear. You were just a sad, smart, terrified woman. And then one night you were reading. Not a thriller, not some self-help garbage. You were reading John Donne. No man is an island. And you got to a line and you chuckled. A real, spontaneous, quiet laugh that lit up your whole face for a second before it faded back into worry. No one in my world laughs like that. We smirk. We scoff. We guffaw at another's misfortune. We don't chuckle at 400-year-old poetry about connection. So you didn't kill me because I liked metaphysical poetry? I didn't kill you because I saw the ghost of a person who hadn't been murdered yet. And I wanted to meet her. So I changed the mission. Phase 2 became acquire and assess. The gala, the job offer, it was all real. And it was all a lie. I was assessing you, yes, for threat, for duplicity. But I was also, God help me, falling in love with the echo of a laugh I'd seen through a telephoto lens. He finally looks up at her. His eyes are red-rimmed, haunted. The sleepless rage is gone, replaced by a devastating fatigue. My uncle knows. Luca knows. They've seen the reports. They know phase 3 is overdue. They think I'm being weak, sentimental. And in our world, sentiment is a cancer. It gets you killed. Salvatore gave me a deadline. The end of the month. Either the Vieri problem disappears, or he sends a cleanup crew. And they won't just take you. They'll make it hurt. They'll make it a message. To me. For my failure. Elena, VO, the reality dawning, cold and heavy, so this was my expiration date all along. The safety, the love. It was just a prettier waiting room. It became real. For me. Every second of it. This is the only truth I have left to give you. I love you. And because I love you, I have painted the brightest target in the world on your back. He laid it all on the desk between them. Not just the truth, but the consequences. The trap wasn't around her. She was standing in the center of it, and he was the one who had built it. So here are your choices, Elena. You can run. Tonight. Now, I'll give you cash, a clean passport, keys to a car downstairs. You can try to outrun my family. You'll have a week, maybe 2, before they find you. They'll use every resource, and they have resources Interpol envies. Or he takes a deep, shuddering breath, as if steeling himself for the madness of his own proposal. Or you stay. You look at the man who was sent to destroy you, and you help him destroy the machine that sent him. My uncle's empire is built on the same books, the same routes, the same corrupt politicians my father used. I have access to all of it, but I can't pull the trigger from the inside alone. I'm too watched, too suspected now. I need someone from the outside, someone with a forensic mind, someone who knows how to follow a money trail to its rotten heart, someone with a reason to burn it all down. You want me to help you commit treason against your own family. I want you to help me destroy the thing that killed my father and is now demanding I kill you. I want to tear down the house so neither of us has to live in its shadow anymore. It's the only way either of us gets out alive. Not just alive, free. The offer hung in the air, monstrous and seductive. It wasn't a promise of safety. It was a declaration of war. And he was asking her to be his general. To trade the terror of being a hunted ghost for the even greater terror of facing the hunters, side by side with the most dangerous hunter of them all. And if I say yes, if we do this, what happens to us? When it's over, Marco Vio, a sad, almost imperceptible smile, then we will have paid a terrible cost for a chance at something real. Maybe we walk away, maybe we don't, but we'll have chosen it. Together, not as a target and her executioner, but as partners in the ruin. The city's distant groan seems to seep into the room. A siren wails, rising and falling, a reminder of the world of consequence outside these glass walls. Elena looks from the photograph in her hand, the ghost of her old life, to the man before her, the architect of her potential death or her impossible salvation. The crack in her world had become a chasm, and she was standing on the edge, deciding whether to fall back into the familiar darkness or jump forward into the arms of the man who had pushed her. The heavy, humid silence after a confession. It's not peaceful. It's the pause between lightning and thunder. Then, a soft, decisive click. Elena places the incriminating photograph face down on Marco's desk. It's not a surrender. It's a laying down of arms and a picking up of new ones. Elena stayed, not in a rush of trust or a flood of forgiveness. She stayed because the calculus of survival had changed. 2 years of running had taught her one unassailable truth. You can't outrun a shadow that lives in your house. Marco wasn't just her hunter. He was the keeper of the hounds. To run was to die tired and alone in a ditch. To stay was to walk into the kennel and try to tame the beasts. It was insanity, but it was a proactive, collaborative insanity. And she was so very tired of being passive prey. I didn't say, I forgive you. I didn't say, I trust you. I looked at the man who had orchestrated the most beautiful deception of my life and I said, show me the books. The first night of the alliance. Not with dramatic music, but with the sterile, electric hum of computer servers kicking on in a hidden room. A room behind a false wall in the study, accessed by pressing a sequence of seemingly random books on a shelf. He showed her the heart of the machine. Not a metaphorical heart, the actual physical server bank that was the central nervous system of the Centauro interests in the Midwest. It was cold in the room. It smelled of ozone and filtered air. Screens flickered to life, displaying dashboards of numbers that would make a Wall Street quant weep. Marco Vio, all business, pointing to a screen. These are the legitimate fronts. The import-export firm, the chain of wine boutiques, the construction company. They make a healthy profit. Just enough to be believable. The real flow is here. His fingers fly over a keyboard. Windows open, revealing complex diagrams of international transfers. The heroin money from the Calabrians gets washed through the construction company's material purchases, over-invoicing for concrete and steel that was never delivered. The proceeds from the counterfeit pharmaceuticals go through the wine business, fake invoices for rare vintages that don't exist. It's elegant. My father's design. Elegant but not perfect. There's always a seam. A place where the fake invoice doesn't quite match the shipping manifest. Where the wire transfer has a one-day delay that doesn't correspond with a delivery. My job was to find those seams in other people's lives. I can find them in yours. A new sound enters the montage. The rapid, focused clatter of a second keyboard. Elena's typing is different, sharper, more rhythmic. She pulls up forensic accounting software from a drive she'd kept hidden, software from her old life. And so began the dangerous, silent waltz. By day, she was still Alessandra, the art consultant, making calls to galleries, scheduling viewings. By night, in the cold server room, she was Elena Vieri, forensic surgeon, dissecting the corpse of Marco's legacy. He would bring her encrypted files, access codes, secure lines to offshore banks. She would trace, flag, and map. He would then use his authority to quietly reroute funds, to cancel shipments, to sow small, deliberate seeds of financial chaos within his own empire. We worked through the night. He never slept. I'd wake at 3 a.m. from a fitful doze on the server room couch, and he'd be there, pacing like a caged panther, muttering in that mountain dialect, checking and rechecking the security feeds on a separate monitor. His eyes glued to the doors, the windows, the rooftops across the street. The rage wasn't at me. It wasn't even hot. It was a cold, simmering fury directed at the universe, at the blood in his veins, at the invisible walls of the cage he had inherited and was now, brick by digital brick, dismantling. His sleeplessness was the engine of our revolt. Montage sounds layer, keys clacking, the whir of servers, the beep of a secure line connecting, a printer spitting out reams of paper. Marco's low, tense voice on a phone. Delay that container. Claim a customs issue. The scratch of Elena's pen as she circles an anomaly on a bank statement. A clock ticking loudly, marking the endless, shadowy hours. For a week it worked. A beautiful, fragile symbiosis. He was the shield watching for external threats. She was the scalpel performing internal sabotage. They communicated in glances, in notes left on keyboards, in the language of numbers. The ghost and the king, building a secret bomb under the throne. The montage sounds distort, slow down. A new element intrudes. The sound of another set of footsteps outside the server room door, stopping, lingering. The heavy, rhythmic breathing of Luca. Luca's suspicion was a living thing. It grew in the dark soil of Marco's changed routines, his exhaustion, his sudden, uncharacteristic interest in mundane financial audits. Luca was old world. He believed in loyalty, tradition, and the swift elimination of doubt. And his doubt was crystallizing around the woman in the penthouse. A new scene. Marco's downtown office, all steel and glass. Luca enters without knocking, holding a tablet. His face is stone. Luca, VO, we need to talk. Privately. Marco, VO, not looking up from his desk, I'm listening. Luca, VO, it's about the woman. Marco's pen stops moving. The office air grows colder. Luca, VO, the transfers to the Genoa account. They were delayed. A system error. The same day she was in here bringing you lunch. The pharmaceutical shipment through Montreal. Seized by Border Patrol on a tip. The day after she used your computer to check an auction catalog. Marco, VO, voice dangerously calm, are you suggesting my art consultant is an agent of the Canadian Border Patrol? Luca? Her taste is impeccable, but her influence has limits. Luca, VO. Slamming the tablet on the desk, my suggestion is you're thinking with the wrong head. Marco. Salvatore is asking questions. The deadlines are passing, and I've been doing my own homework. He taps the tablet. On screen, doctored email headers. An address that looks convincingly like an FBI proxy. The subject line, status update, asset Vieri. The preview text, funds received. Continue close proximity. Await signal for extraction. Luca, VO, I found these. Buried in an encrypted partition on the penthouse's guest Wi-Fi network. She's been communicating with Agent Daniel Reyes, the same Fed who's been sniffing around our construction sites for months. The forgeries were good. Not perfect to Elena's expert eye, but perfect enough for a man like Luca, who already believed the worst. They showed wire transfers from a DOJ slush fund to a Cayman account, timed with her shopping trips. They were a masterpiece of poison. Marco, VO, staring at the screen, his face blank, where did you get this? Luca, VO, does it matter? The evidence is there. She's playing you. She's been playing you from the start. The gala, the job, the tears. It's all been a long game. She's her father's daughter. And she's going to bring this whole family down unless you do what should have been done months ago. Marco stands up slowly. He walks to the window, his back to Luca. His reflection shows a man being pulled apart. Luca, VO, softer. Deadly, I've been with this family since before you could walk. I loved your father. I serve your uncle. And I am telling you, as someone who cares for you, this ends one of two ways. You end it, or Salvatore will send men who will end it, and they won't be careful about who else gets hurt in the process. The rage you're holding on to is going to get you killed. Let it out. Do your job. The office door closes as Luca leaves. Marco doesn't move for a full minute. Then, his fist connects with the reinforced glass of the window. Not hard enough to break it. Just a solid, muted thud of impotent fury. The seed was planted. The sleepless rage, once a fuel for their secret war, now curdled into a toxic paranoia. Luca's evidence was a mirror, reflecting Marco's deepest, oldest fear back at him. That trust is the precursor to betrayal. That every smile hides a knife. That history was repeating itself, with Elena playing her father's part, and Marco playing his own father's. The doomed fool who believed he could talk his way out of the grave. That night, back at the penthouse. A storm is brewing over the lake. Distant thunder rumbles. A low growl that syncs with the tension in the air. Elena is in the server room, cross-referencing a list of shell companies. She's found a golden thread. A series of payments from Uncle Salvatore's personal account to a private security firm with known ties to the Russian Bratva in Brighton Beach. Marco, look at this. I think Salvatore is hedging his bets. If the domestic operations falter, he's got an exit plan and new friends to help him. The server room door, which is never locked, slams open. Marco stands there, silhouetted by the light from the study. He's still in his suit from the office, but his tie is gone. His shirt is rumpled. His hair is disheveled. He's been drinking, but not enough to slur his words, just enough to sharpen the serrated edge of his suspicion. His eyes are bloodshot, pupils dilated from 72 hours of no sleep and constant adrenaline. Give me your phone. Elena, VO, confused what? Marco, VO, voice a low, strained wire your phone. The one you use. The burner. All of them. Now. Elena, VO, standing up slowly. Marco, what's going on? Look at what I found. Marco, VO, taking a step into the room, his presence filling the small space. I don't want to see what you want me to see. I want to see what you've been hiding. The communications. The signals. The extraction plans. Give them to me. Elena, VO. A cold dread replacing confusion. You don't trust me. After everything we're doing. After I've seen it all. A clap of thunder explodes directly overhead, shaking the very walls of the penthouse. The lights flicker. In the strobe effect, Marco's face looks like a series of grim, disconnected masks. Trust? Trust is what got my father killed. He trusted a conversation. He trusted that an old professional courtesy meant something. And he died on a dock with a hole in his head. You want me to trust? You want me to believe the daughter of the man who set that trap is now my savior? Show me the proof you're not. Show me you're not just waiting for the signal to put the bullet in my head. He sweeps his arm across the desk where she's working. Tablets, notebooks, pens, a glass of water go flying. The glass shatters against the server rack. Water sprays across the glowing drives. Elena flinches back, not from the violence, but from the raw, unraveling agony of it. This wasn't the calculated anger of a mob boss. This was the terrified, sleepless rage of a little boy who'd watched his father die, of a man who'd been taught that love is the weakness enemy's exploit, of a partner who was terrified he'd gambled his soul on another lie. The cage wasn't just around him. It was inside him, and he was rattling the bars with a primal, hopeless fury. Elena, VO. Her voice quiet but cutting through the storm. Is that what you see when you look at me? Your father's killer? Is that all I am to you now? Just the next betrayal in a long line? Marco staggers back as if struck. The rage drains from his face, leaving behind a hollow, devastated exhaustion. He looks at the shattered glass, the scattered papers, at her standing there, not cowering, but looking at him with a pity that wounds him deeper than any hatred could. Marco, VO. The words escaping in a broken whisper, every woman I have ever loved has been used as a weapon against me. My mother, her illness, was a poison administered by a rival family to distract my father. My sister, her marriage was a treaty, a hostage situation dressed in white. And now you are either the knife my uncle sends, or the knife I will have to fall on myself. I can't keep paying this price for loving someone. The cost is, it's everything. It's always everything. He sinks to the floor, his back against the cold server rack, his head in his hands. The storm rages outside, but inside the room, there is only the sound of his ragged breathing and the electric hum of the machines that held the secrets they were both trying to steal. The alliance, forged in cold necessity, had just been tested in the white-hot fire of his inherited trauma. And it had bent, threatening to break completely. The aftermath of the storm, both outside and in. Rain lashes the penthouse windows. Inside the server room, the only sounds are the electric hum, the faint drip of water from the shattered glass, and Marco's shallow, ragged breaths as he sits broken on the floor. Elena looks at him. Not the fearsome Marco Santoro, but a man shipwrecked by his own history. The pity in her heart hardens into a diamond-clear resolve. Get up. Her voice isn't gentle. It's a command. The voice she might have used in another life on a task force when the operation was going to hell. Marco doesn't move. Elena, VO, louder, cutting. Get. You want proof I'm not the knife? Then stop waiting to be stabbed and help me grab the handle. Luca is the knife. Your uncle is the hand holding it. And they are coming for both of us. Now get off the floor. Slowly, as if his bones are made of lead, Marco pushes himself up. He won't meet her eyes. Shame has replaced the rage. There's a server, a master node. You alluded to it once. The Lake Geneva backup. The one with the immutable logs. The one even you can't delete from. Where is it? Marco, VO, voice hollow. Why? Because blind justice got my father killed. It got your father killed. I don't believe in it anymore. I believe in balance. In calibrated consequences. To bring down a tree, you don't just chop at the trunk. You have to sever the roots and set fire to the stump. Show me the roots. He stares at her for a long moment, then gives a single, tired nod. He walks to the back of the server rack, presses a seemingly innocuous panel. It slides away, revealing a biometric scanner. He places his palm on it. A retinal scanner lights up. The Lake Geneva backup wasn't in Switzerland. The name was a joke. It was here, in a heavily shielded, air-gapped server isolated deep within the penthouse's infrastructure. It recorded everything. Every transaction, every encrypted call, every incriminating email with military-grade fidelity. It was the family's black box, designed to survive any catastrophe, to be used as leverage or insurance. Marco had never accessed it. Some truths are too heavy to hold. The server whirs to life. A single, stark terminal screen glows. Elena sits before it. Her fingers fly. She doesn't search randomly. She uses the threads she's already pulled, the shell companies, the payment routes, and follows them to their ultimate source. The data unfolds like a poisonous flower. Elena, VO, narrating what she sees here. The full laundering routes. Not just the Midwest. The pipeline from Afghanistan through Turkey, Greece, here. The political payoffs. Not just the state senator. A federal judge. 2 congressmen. Photographs, bank transfers, encrypted voice recordings of quid pro quo. And here, Salvatore's personal ledger. His retirement fund. Siphoned from the family's accounts for a decade. $500 million parked in Dubai. Marco, VO, looking over her shoulder. His voice a mix of awe and horror. He's been robbing us blind, while preaching family above all. And here, Luca, skimming from the skimmer. A smaller cut, but just as treacherous. He has his own exit plan. A villa in Costa Rica, paid for with money marked for the cleanup crew. The crew meant for me. They're all rats, Marco. They've been gnawing at the foundations while pretending to hold up the walls. She worked with a cold, surgical fury. She compiled dossiers. One for the FBI's organized crime desk, tagged for Agent Reyes, the very man Luca had framed her with. One for the Italian DIA, the anti-mafia prosecutors. And one for a secure, dead-man switch server that would blast the data to every major news outlet in the world in 48 hours. The ultimate insurance policy. Elena VO, as she sets the timers, I'm not my father. He handed his evidence to a system that was already corrupted. I'm handing it to the system, to a rival system, and to the court of public opinion all at once. Let them fight over who gets to claim the prize. The tree will fall. Just as she hits the final enter key, a new sound cuts through the hum of the servers. Not thunder. The distinct, metallic shunk of the penthouse's private elevator being overridden and opening on their floor. Then, the blaring, undignified shriek of the building's fire alarm. A classic diversion. Luca's voice, shouting. Muffled by walls, find them. The study. The server room. Heavy, booted footsteps spreading through the penthouse. The crash of a door being kicked in. Luca hadn't waited for Salvatore's final order. The planted evidence had been his opening move. This was the endgame. He'd brought his most loyal, most vicious soldiers. The cleanup had arrived early. Marco VO, the lethargy shattered, replaced by instant, hyper-focused clarity, the service elevator. Through the kitchen. It's on a separate circuit, they might not have disabled it. The data, the uploads are at 70%. Marco VO already moving to a wall panel, punching a code, it'll finish or it won't. We won't be here to see it. Move. He yanks open the server room door a crack. Gunfire erupts immediately from the study, rat-tat-tat-tat, spraying the hallway. Plaster dust fills the air. Marco slams the door shut, locking it. They're in the hall. We're trapped. Elena VO, her eyes scanning the room, not trapped. Contained. She runs not away from the door, but to the main server rack. She jams her fingers into a vent at its base, yanking hard. A small, hidden compartment pops open. Inside, wrapped in oilcloth, are two pistols, a sleek Beretta and a compact Glock 26, and spare magazines. Marco stared, stunned. He'd forgotten about that compartment. His father's final precaution. Elena VO, checking the Beretta's chamber with a fluid, practiced motion. You take the 9. I'll take the subcompact. On 3, we go out. You go left toward the kitchen. I'll cover right, then follow. You're giving tactical orders now? Elena VO, a grim, tight smile. I told you I wasn't just a restorer. My father believed in backup plans too. Now 1, 2, on 3. Marco kicks the door open and dives left, firing 2 shots down the hall. Elena pivots right, firing 3 rapid, controlled rounds. A man screams. The return fire is wild, panicked. There in the open hallway, the kitchen a tantalizing 20 feet away. The service elevator door is just beyond it. They moved as a unit, a chaotic, violent ballet. Marco, the brawler, using suppressing fire. Elena, the precision instrument, picking targets. They were almost to the kitchen archway when a figure emerged from the study, Luca. He didn't fire at Marco. He took careful, deliberate aim at Elena's back. Marco sees it. A fraction of a second. He doesn't shout a warning. He moves. He shoves Elena through the kitchen doorway with all his strength and spins, placing his body between her and the shot. The gunshot. A deafening, unsuppressed bang in the confined space. Marco grunts, a sound of pure, shocked impact. He stumbles backward, crashing into the kitchen island. The Beretta clatters from his hand. She doesn't freeze. The training, buried for years, takes over. She drops to one knee in the kitchen doorway, brings the Glock up in a 2-handed grip and fires. Once, twice. The first shot hits Luca in the shoulder, spinning him. The second catches him in the thigh. He goes down with a roar. The other shooters, seeing Luca fall, hesitate. That moment was all she needed. She scrambled to Marco. He was on the floor, a dark, rapidly spreading stain blossoming on the left side of his chest, high, near the collarbone. His breathing was wet and labored. Elena, VO, ripping a dish towel, pressing it hard against the wound. Look at me. Stay with me. Marco VO. His eyes struggling to focus on her. The elevator code. 7-0-2-1. My mother's birthday. With his good hand, he fumbles in his pants pocket. His fingers, slick with blood, close around a small, cold key. He presses it into her palm, closing her fingers around it. Marco VO. Each word an effort. Bahnhofstrasse. Zurich. Safe deposit box 147. Passports. Cash. Bonds. Enough for a new son. Every day. Go. Elena VO. Tears of fury and terror mixing on her face. I am not leaving you here. Marco VO. A faint, bloody smile touching his lips. You already did, Ellie. 2 months ago. In that server room, when you chose to fight with me instead of just running from me. You set us both free. You just didn't know it yet. Now finish it. Run. His eyes flutter closed. His head lolls to the side. In the distance, the real sound of police sirens joins the building's false alarm. Luca's men were retreating, dragging their wounded boss. The window was closing. He had known. From the moment she agreed to stay, he had known this was the only possible end for him. A Santoro doesn't get a quiet retirement. He gets a bullet or a prison cell. And he had chosen, in loving her, to make his end mean something. To give her the one thing his world never offered. A clean getaway. Elena looks from his pale face to the key in her hand. She looks at the service elevator door, a promise of escape. She looks back at him. A lifetime passes in 3 seconds. Then she makes her choice. She doesn't drag him to the elevator. She drags him away from it, deeper into the kitchen, into the pantry, a blind corner. She props him up, keeps pressure on the wound. She takes the Glock and she waits. Not for escape, for the sirens to arrive. Elena VO whispering to his unconscious form, you don't get to be the noble sacrifice. You don't get to pay the cost alone. We started this together. We finish it together. The balance includes you. The sirens are right outside. Shouts. Police! Drop your weapons. The sound of the main penthouse door being breached. The epilogue begins not with peace, but with the chaotic, grinding machinery of justice engaging. Fade from chaos to profound quiet. The gentle, rhythmic lap of waves against a rocky shore. The cry of a single gull. The whisper of a warm Mediterranean breeze through olive trees. 6 months later, the storm had passed. Not the brief squall over Lake Michigan, but the lifelong hurricane of the Santoro name. It left wreckage in its wake. Salvatore Santoro, arrested at his golf club in Florida. Luca, turning state's evidence from a hospital bed, singing a desperate, discordant song to reduce his sentence. A dozen politicians and businessmen, their careers reduced to mugshots and headlines. The empire was not just fallen. It was erased, its foundations dug up and salted by the very data Elena had uploaded. The dead man's switch never triggered. She'd stopped it with a code from a police station computer, her part of the bargain. A rustic wooden balcony. The scrape of a chair as Elena sits. She wears a simple linen dress, her skin kissed by the Sardinian sun, her eyes quieter, but the ghosts are not gone. They've just been given a view. The terrible cost wasn't what he took from me. The lies, the fear. I'd already paid that price to others. The cost was what loving me demanded of him. His empire, which was his prison. His family, which was his curse. His name, which was a brand of violence. He traded it all for the chance that I might live a life not defined by his world. He balanced the scales with his own freedom. The trial was a media circus. Marco Santoro, in a crisp prison jumpsuit, took the stand. He didn't plead. He didn't justify. He explained. Calmly, clearly, he connected the dots between the money and the murders, the politicians and the pain. He gave them everything. In exchange, the murder charge for his father's death, based on Luca's new testimony that it was a rival family, not Antonio Vieri, was dropped. He pleaded guilty to racketeering, money laundering, conspiracy. 15 years. A lifetime for some. A beginning for him. The ambience shifts. The gentle waves are replaced by the sterile, echoing sounds of a high-security prison visiting room. Distant clanging doors, muffled PA announcements, the low murmur of other fractured conversations. Guard OS 5 minutes. A chair scrapes on the other side of thick, scratched plexiglass. Marco sits. He looks older, thinner. His hair is shorter. But his eyes, when they find hers through the partition, are clear. The sleepless rage has been burned away, leaving a calm, deep-water stillness. A healing scar is visible above the collar of his prison shirt. Marco, VO, through the phone receiver you look tired. I don't sleep well. Funny that I got used to the sound of someone else not sleeping. The quiet is loud. The rage, it's quieter now. It has a door. I can sometimes close it. Maybe because I'm finally paying the bill. Maybe because I finally have something worth losing that isn't made of brick and blood. A small, genuine smile touches Elena's lips for the first time. She reaches her hand up and places it flat against the glass. After a beat, he mirrors the gesture on his side. Their palms are separated by an inch of polymer, by years of sentence, by oceans of pain. But there is no lie in the space between them. Not anymore. When you get out, Marco, VO, shaking his head, a gentle warning in his eyes. Ellie, don't wait for me. This cost is mine. You've paid enough. Go to Zurich. Go to Bali. Go be someone the sun shines on, without any shadows. Elena, VO, her voice soft but unbreakable. Her eyes holding his through the glass. I wasn't asking for permission, Marco. I was giving you a date. 15 years is a long time to learn how to sleep. I'll be here. Maybe not in this waiting room every month. But I'll be here. We started a balance. I'm seeing it through. He closes his eyes, a shudder passing through him. Not of sorrow, but of a relief so profound it borders on pain. When he opens them, they are bright. He doesn't argue. He simply nods once. Their hands remain pressed to the glass, a silent, sustained promise against all odds and sense. The prison ambience fades, replaced by a single, pure piano note that hangs in the air. Then begins a simple, hopeful, unresolved melody. She thought she'd found love and safety. Instead, she found a man whose love was a war, whose safety was a siege, and whose heart was a vault of sleepless rage. She walked into a gilded cage and found the key wasn't on the outside. It was in choosing to dismantle the bars, together, from within. The world tells us love should be safe, should be soft, should be simple. But sometimes, love is the most dangerous mission you'll ever accept. It's staring into the abyss of someone's past and saying, I'm not afraid of the dark. Let's build a light here. The terrible cost is real. It's paid in blood, in freedom, in shattered legacies. But in the wreckage, if you're brave enough to sift through it together, you might just find the only thing stronger than fear. You might find a peace that was earned, not given. A love that is real because it survived the fire. The piano melody resolves, not with a major chord, but with a complex, beautiful minor one. Sad, but full of forward motion. It lingers. If the story kept you up tonight, you know what to do. Smash that like button. Subscribe for more tales where the heart is the most dangerous weapon of all. And in the comments, tell me this. Could you love the wreckage if it meant finding the person hiding inside? Until next time, sleep well. Or don't. Maybe just find someone to stay awake with. Channel outro music fades in, blending with the final notes of the piano. Then out. The sirens are right outside. Shouts. Police! Drop your weapons. The sound of the main penthouse door being breached. The epilogue begins not with peace, but with the chaotic, grinding machinery of justice engaging. Fade from chaos to profound quiet. The gentle, rhythmic lap of waves against a rocky shore. The cry of a single gull. The whisper of a warm Mediterranean breeze through olive trees. 6 months later, the storm had passed. Not the brief squall over Lake Michigan, but the lifelong hurricane of the Santoro name. It left wreckage in its wake. Salvatore Santoro, arrested at his golf club in Florida. Luca, turning state's evidence from a hospital bed, singing a desperate, discordant song to reduce his sentence. A dozen politicians and businessmen, their careers reduced to mugshots and headlines. The empire was not just fallen. It was erased, its foundations dug up and salted by the very data Elena had uploaded. The dead man's switch never triggered. She'd stopped it with a code from a police station computer, her part of the bargain. A rustic wooden balcony. The scrape of a chair as Elena sits. She wears a simple linen dress, her skin kissed by the Sardinian sun, her eyes quieter, but the ghosts are not gone. They've just been given a view. The terrible cost wasn't what he took from me, the lies, the fear. I'd already paid that price to others. The cost was what loving me demanded of him. His empire, which was his prison. His family, which was his curse. His name, which was a brand of violence. He traded it all for the chance that I might live a life not defined by his world. He balanced the scales with his own freedom. The trial was a media circus. Marco Santoro, in a crisp prison jumpsuit, took the stand. He didn't plead. He didn't justify. He explained. Calmly, clearly, he connected the dots between the money and the murders, the politicians and the pain. He gave them everything. In exchange, the murder charge for his father's death, based on Luca's new testimony that it was a rival family, not Antonio Vieri, was dropped. He pleaded guilty to racketeering, money laundering, conspiracy. 15 years. A lifetime for some. A beginning for him. The ambience shifts. The gentle waves are replaced by the sterile, echoing sounds of a high-security prison visiting room. Distant clanging doors, muffled PA announcements, the low murmur of other fractured conversations. Guard OS 5 minutes. A chair scrapes on the other side of thick, scratched plexiglass. Marco sits. He looks older, thinner. His hair is shorter. But his eyes, when they find hers through the partition, are clear. The sleepless rage has been burned away, leaving a calm, deep water stillness. A healing scar is visible above the collar of his prison shirt. Marco, Vio, through the phone receiver you look tired. I don't sleep well. Funny that I got used to the sound of someone else not sleeping. The quiet is loud. The rage, it's quieter now. It has a door. I can sometimes close it. Maybe because I'm finally paying the bill. Maybe because I finally have something worth losing that isn't made of brick and blood. A small, genuine smile touches Elena's lips for the first time. She reaches her hand up and places it flat against the glass. After a beat, he mirrors the gesture on his side. Their palms are separated by an inch of polymer, by years of sentence, by oceans of pain. But there is no lie in the space between them. Not anymore. When you get out, Marco, Vio, shaking his head, a gentle warning in his eyes. Ellie, don't wait for me. This cost is mine. You've paid enough. Go to Zurich. Go to Bali. Go be someone the sun shines on, without any shadows. Elena, Vio, her voice soft but unbreakable. Her eyes holding his through the glass. I wasn't asking for permission, Marco. I was giving you a date. 15 years is a long time to learn how to sleep. I'll be here. Maybe not in this waiting room every month. But I'll be here. We started a balance. I'm seeing it through. He closes his eyes, a shudder passing through him. Not of sorrow, but of a relief so profound it borders on pain. When he opens them, they are bright. He doesn't argue. He simply nods once. Their hands remain pressed to the glass. A silent, sustained promise against all odds and sense. The prison ambience fades, replaced by a single, pure piano note that hangs in the air. Then begins a simple, hopeful, unresolved melody. She thought she'd found love and safety. Instead, she found a man whose love was a war, whose safety was a siege, and whose heart was a vault of sleepless rage. She walked into a gilded cage and found the key wasn't on the outside. It was in choosing to dismantle the bars, together, from within. The world tells us love should be safe, should be soft, should be simple. But sometimes, love is the most dangerous mission you'll ever accept. It's staring into the abyss of someone's past and saying, I'm not afraid of the dark. Let's build a light here. The terrible cost is real. is paid in blood, in freedom, in shattered legacies. But in the wreckage, if you're brave enough to sift through it together, you might just find the only thing stronger than fear. You might find a peace that was earned, not given. A love that is real because it survived the fire. The piano melody resolves, not with a major chord, but with a complex, beautiful minor one. Sad, but full of forward motion. It lingers. If the story kept you up tonight, you know what to do. Smash that like button. Subscribe for more tales where the heart is the most dangerous weapon of all. And in the comments, tell me this. Could you love the wreckage if it meant finding the person hiding inside? Until next time, sleep well. Or don't. Maybe just find someone to stay awake with. Channel outro music fades in, blending with the final notes of the piano. Then out.